Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'll be showing you how to work with the Object Snap tool in AutoCAD Civil 3D. This is the Object Snap tool and it is located at the bottom of your AutoCAD Civil 3D software. Before we start working with the Object Snap tools, there are things we need to know. First of all, turn the Object Snap tool on. If I press F3, it turns on. If I press F3, it turns off. Now, if you don't see this option at the bottom of your screen, there are these three parallel line customization. Click on it and ensure that your 2D object snap is on. Something else you also need to turn off. There is this snap mode, F9. You need to ensure that it is turned off because it snaps to a grid, and once it is on, it might interfere with you snapping to specific objects. So ensure that the grid mode is not turned on. The next thing we need to set is this aperture, this cross that appears, and the size of the object marker. For example, if I start the command create line, you can see the green marker appearing. This is the center. This is the center. This is the endpoint. This is the midpoint. If you want to change the size of this triangle, type options in the command line. Under drafting, we have the auto snap marker size, and you can choose your desired size. If I apply and start the command line, you can see my green marker becomes smaller, but I prefer it being bigger than that. For options, and then I'll put it to the largest size I can have. So let's get right into the snap tools. I have a survey plan, and this survey plan, we are going to use it to learn how to use the object snap. In the object snap drop-down menu, we have the endpoint, midpoint, center. We have the geometric center, node, quadrant, intersection, extension, insertion, perpendicular, tangent, nearest, apparent intersection, and parallel. Let's start with the endpoint. Let's turn off all the others. Now, if I was to take a line and I want to draw a line from this endpoint, if I put my cursor at the end of this line, there is a square, there's a green square that appears, and that shows the endpoint. And now I can draw a line from the endpoint of this line. We can go to the second snap tool option, which is the midpoint. Now, in the line that you have just drawn, we want to select the midpoint of this line. So let's draw a circle from the midpoint of this line. Take a circle, and the midpoint appears as a triangle. This means that the center of this circle is at the midpoint of this line. So if I wanted to divide a rectangle into two, I'll just take this polyline, and from this midpoint to this midpoint, these two formed rectangles are of equal size. The third option is the center. Now, for these beacons that I have, for example, N6, and I wanted to draw a line from N6 to N9, maybe I want to know the distance, I'll take my line, and when I bring my cursor to this circle, you can see there are options. There is that green circle that appears. That means that my cursor is snapping to the center of N6. Then I can scroll down and snap it to the center of N9. The fourth option is the geometric center. The geometric center snaps to the center of any shape. If I was to create a hexagon, for example, and I want to snap to the center of this hexagon, I will use the geometric center snap. Now, if I was to take a line and I want it to originate from the geometric center of this hexagon, there is an asterisk that appears, and I'll just put my cursor onto that asterisk, and this line originates from the center of this hexagon. The fifth feature is the node. The node snaps to points. For example, if you were to create a point called N6 points, let's create a manual point, snap to the center, and call it N6. And maybe create another one and call it N9. And now I want to snap to this node. Let's turn off the other features so that we can know how a node appears. Turn on the node, and you can see the node appears as an X surrounded by a circle. Now this means that it is snapping to this node. And we can move it to N9, and it snaps to N9. That is what a node means. A node is a point that you have created on AutoCAD. The fifth feature is the quadrant. Now for the quadrant, the snap cursor appears as a diagonal square, just a square that has been turned 45 degrees. To demonstrate the quadrant, we'll draw two circles. The quadrant snaps to the four corners of a circle. If I was to take this line, create line, it snaps to the north of that circle. And now, if I wanted to draw another one, this snaps to 90. And this one snaps to 180. Yeah, so that's how a quadrant works. The next option is the intersection. Now, intersection means where two lines cross. For example, for this grid, if I wanted to plot a line that starts from this intersection, create line, the intersection appears as an X. I can snap from that intersection to, let's say, this intersection. The next tool is the extension. The extension tool works the same as the extend tool. If we want line N14 to N11 to touch this dotted line, we'll use the extension tool. How do we do that? So let's create a line that extends along N14 to N11. Create line, and then we can turn on the endpoint so that we can snap here. I'll proceed to the end of that line. Once I place my cursor to the end, I'll just drag my mouse until a star appears and a dotted line follows. This means that I'm extending this line straight toward the dotted line, and I can snap it there. The next tool is the insertion tool. Turn on the insertion tool. The insertion tool snaps object from their base point. When I was adding this text, I added it as an M text, and I started from top to bottom. Now, if I want to snap from where I started, the base point, where this text is anchored, I'll highlight the text. And if I want to move it, you can see the insertion tool appears as two squares that have been connected to each other. And now I can move the text from its base point. The next tool is the perpendicular. Let's turn on the perpendicular feature on. Now, if I was to draw a line originating from the midpoint of N14 to N11 and being perpendicular to line N6 to N5, I'll take my line. Let's turn off the insertion tool. This line originates from the midpoint of this line. But since these two lines are not equal, and I want to snap this line, line N6, N5B, snap to the midpoint. This line is snapped to the midpoint of N14, N11. And once I direct my cursor to this line, there is a 90 degrees icon that appears. This means that if I click my cursor, this line is 90 degrees. This line that I've just created is 90 degrees to line N6 and 5. And you can see it appears to be 90. The same with this concept. If you wanted to draw a line that is perpendicular to line N11, N5 from N6, N14. Just pick your line, create line from this center point to be 90 degrees here. It appears as a 90 degrees green icon. The next tool is the tangent. The tangent draws a line that touches a circle or an arc perfectly. For example, if we wanted to draw a tangent from N11 touching this circle that I have just drawn, pick a line, create a line, maybe turn on the center cursor, snap to the center of N11, and we can turn off the other tools, perpendicular, midpoint, and endpoint, and turn on tangent. Tangent appears as a circle with a crossed line on top of it. This means that this line is a tangent to this circle. We can repeat that, create line from this center, which is a circle, to the tangent of this circle, which is a circle, and a line on top of it. And we have two tangents. The next tool is the nearest. Now, if you are drawing a line and you want to snap at your desired point, create line. We want the line to originate. We can originate the line from N12, and we want it to touch to our desired point. You see now the cursor is saying nearest. It means I can snap this line to any desired point. If I was to turn off the nearest and maybe turn on endpoint and midpoint, even if I try to snap at any point, for example, if I put the cursor here, it will snap to either this endpoint or this midpoint. It will not snap at my desired point. And that's what nearest does. We will skip the apparent intersection because that works with 3D. Let's go to parallel. Now, we can turn off all the others and turn on parallel. Now, we want to draw a line parallel to this grid. So I'll take my line, click where I want the parallel line to start, drag my cursor to that grid until two green lines appear. Once I have that, I'll hover over the line, and then without clicking anywhere, I'll return my cursor to where I want the perpendicular line to be. I'll drag it to my desired length. Maybe I can type 85 as the length, click enter. And now I have a line parallel to this grid that is 85 units. That is how you use the Object Snap Cursor tool. We can go through the tools one by one. The endpoint is a rectangle. Midpoint, a triangle. Center, a circle. Geometric center, an aesthetic. Node, an X. Quadrant, 0 degrees, 90 to 70, 360. Intersection, where two lines meet, an X. Extension, same as the extend tool under modify, extends a line. A dotted green line. Perpendicular, a 90 degrees green icon. tangent touching perfectly to a circle. Nearest desired point of intersection. Parallel draws a line parallel. Now, if you have all this turned on, which is not advisable, but you have already started your command, for example, you are creating a line, and let's start from this endpoint, and now you want to snap here, where there are many options. There is the tangent, there is the nearest, there is the endpoint, there is the center, but you want to snap to your desired point, and you have started your command from this endpoint. Just hold on Shift, right click, then you can choose your desired output, which is, let's say, center. And it will isolate all the others and snap to the center. When you are a surveyor and you're dealing with this object snap tool, the most used tools are the endpoint, midpoint, center. The geometric center is not used that much. The quadrant is not used that much. The extension is not used that much. Tangent, nearest, and parallel. You can have this turned on as you're working on your surveying drawings. Thank you for watching this tutorial, and see you in the next one.